I don't know if you guys ever watched Conan O'Brien, but he did this skit, this reoccurring skit, where he would have someone who was who worked for him come on and he would pretend to be just completely obnoxious, totally elitist. Jordan Schlansky was his name, and one of the most beloved series of skits. Bob Iger comes across as a Jordan Schlansky who cannot get off the stage. He just like it drives him insane to not be the man who is unquestionable in every single way in leadership. It insults him for you to even say, I'd like to see the numbers. I want to see what's going on here. Right. That insults him because he is the numbers.
Joshua Harris likes to point out that this has gone from being the Walt Disney Company to being the Bob Iger Corporation.
Exactly. That's it. That's what I've been saying, is that Bob Iger cannot, he does not believe the Walt Disney Company can exist without him. And that's the real problem with the Walt Disney Company right now. And this right here, look at this paragraph. It gets worse. Read between the lines. Iger and Chapek never participated in a face-to-face mediation about their working relationship. The board never demanded it. You know why? Because Iger. Privately,
like a feuding couple.
Yeah. Privately, Susan Arnold counseled Bob Chapek to be patient, something she'd continue to do for months to come in a series of coaching sessions. Let Bob Iger run creative, she said. In 18 months, Chapek would have control of everything. Until then, don't engage in turf wars. Why is she having this conversation with the CEO? This conversation needed to be had with Bob Iger. He was the problem. He's not CEO anymore.
Yeah, you don't agree, especially from Bob Iger's perspective, you don't agree to mediation with someone who is not your equal.
That's it.
Because he would have had to have made concessions. And the only reason it sounds like that Bob Iger would be in that room is to let Bob Chapek know how things are going to go.
Right, that's it. Iger wanted Chapek's complete fealty. He wanted his obedience. He wanted him like a little dog, a lap dog. That's it. But that's what gets us to kind of where we are today. And they go into talking about the streaming operations. They go into talking about and all this. And again, as I said before, Iger was the one that made the decision to launch into Disney+. Iger's the one that effectively made the decision to have all of this super expensive content, because who was controlling creative decisions until January 1st of 2022? It was still Bob Iger. So he was the one deciding all of this. And what Bob Iger didn't especially like is he was making creative decisions, now that we know that, and Kareem Daniel was telling him where they were going to go. That really pissed off Bob Iger. And I told everybody, remember that night that Chapek was fired? What did I say that night on the stream? I said, you watch, by tomorrow morning, Kareem Daniel, he's the next one out the door. Sure enough, he was going.
6:30 a.m.
6:30 in the morning the next morning. I'm like, told you. That's it.
That'd be an hour and 15 minutes. No. Was it? Yep. 2 hours and 15 minutes after Bob Iger's first shower.
Yes. Exactly. But, Iger had already begun to reposition the company accordingly to streaming. We're all in. So, again, I remind folks, it was Bob Iger that turned Disney into a streaming company, not Chapek. Chapek had to come behind him and clean it up. And what was everybody on Wall Street asking for at that
subscribers?
Moment?
Only subscribers.
The almighty subscribers. How many subs you got? How many subs you going to get next quarter? How many subs you got now? Nobody cared about the value proposition. Nobody cared about the profitability. They just wanted how many subs you got. And it took them a couple of years to realize, oh, shit, we ain't making any money. We're losing a lot. And the questions started to come out about, why is Disney spending tens of billions of dollars a year creating proprietary content when they have one of the biggest studio libraries in history? People would be more than happy to pay $7 a month just to access that. What is the biggest thing on Nielsen every week for Disney+? Bluey. That's it.
Yeah.
The things that people are watching on Disney+, it's not the Marvel shows. It's not the Star Wars shows. The most consumed content on Disney Plus is reruns of, Mickey Mouse Clubhouse and Bluey and stuff like this. People parking their little kids in front of the TV babysitter and going, playlist.
And the best strategy for Disney would to be to keep your head low and not make anything offensive or dangerous for children. Oh wait, never mind.
Yep. Yeah, that too. Let's not have trans robots and things and stupid stuff. And,
If you wanted to sabotage Disney, you would do the things that were done.
Yes. Yes.
There's that.
You would make it so you would take legacy cartoon characters or Muppets and make them into trans, make Gonzo trans on Muppet Baby.
You would put warnings in front of your classic content that no one had a complaint about.
Yes, that kind of stuff. So you can see here, I mean, there was this total changeover at Disney. The Hollywood people didn't like it. And of course, who did Bob Iger like to hang out with? Hollywood people. Who did he live in the neighborhood with? Dana Walden, right down the street. They would go jogging together on a lot of mornings and all this kind of stuff between his 14 showers. Around this time in late 2020 and 2021, Disney executives throughout the company started to feel increasingly awkward about the Iger-Chapek relationship. McCarthy warned Chapek that Iger's criticism was reaching an increasingly wide audience. McCarthy declined to comment for the story.
When I was little, I assumed that 70-year-olds had it all together and didn't get into this petty garbage. This is the kind of behavior that my millennial 20-year-old coworker would engage in. That if you don't get listened to by the first person you talk to, you just keep talking to more and more people until you finally get your way.
That's it. And this next part, interesting. Zena Mucha, who'd been head of Disney's communications since 2002, she said, hey, Bob Chapek, you should try to find a way to have a united front with Mr. Iger. Bob Chapek didn't trust her. What was one of his first appointments when he got full control at the beginning of 2022 after Iger left December 31st of 21?
Jeff Morrell.
Jeff Morrell. Zena Mucha was out the frickin' door. He didn't trust her as far as he could throw her. And I don't blame him. I mean, all these people that were these Iger loyalists, as soon as Iger was no longer chairman, as soon as he got the ability to do what he needed to do, he started getting rid of Iger people.
Isn't Mucha at TikTok now? Which is owned by...
Is that where she went?
ByteDance, which is owned by...
China?
And also Kevin Mayer, when he left the Walt Disney Company, he also went to work at TikTok, which is owned by ByteDance, which is owned by China.
Yes, we'll get you all back at House of Mouse very
fascinating
soon.
Thing. It's such a fascinating thing to see that there's this cozy relationship between the Walt Disney Company and who's their chairman of the board? What company does he work for, and where do they make all their
you mean
shoes?
that Nike stuff?
Yeah,
we will sabotage American tradition and culture and keep it out of here. Perfect plan.
And where are all the expansions to the parks going right now?
Yeah.
To places that they could lose in a heartbeat.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
They're
exactly.
insane. They're insane.
This is where stuff I thought got really fun. That November, okay, so this is November of 2021, okay, about a month or so before Iger is resigning as executive chairman. That November, Bob Iger threw himself a goodbye party. Let's stop and take that one in. Bob Iger threw himself a goodbye party at his Brentwood home. After 26 years, he was finally leaving Disney. He invited about 70 guests, including Steven Spielberg, Al Michaels, David Muir, Robin Roberts, Michael Strahan, many other former and present Disney leaders. Iger reluctantly invited Bob Chapek, reluctantly invited the CEO of the company he was retiring from. When he found out Chapek had a speaking engagement at Walt Disney World set for that day, he was relieved. According to people familiar with his mindset at the time, he didn't want Chapek to attend. And the feeling was mutual. Chapek's first impulse was to decline, but he knew that it would look terrible if he didn't go, so he canceled his plans in Orlando. At the party, the tension between the two was palpable. Iger sat next to Spielberg, while Bob Chapek sat far away at the opposite table, visibly miserable. It did not escape the attendees that Iger thanked dozens of whatever that was that just happened to my screen.
Well, while you're searching to see what in the world happened, we've been sabotaged by the mouse. It sounds like Mean Girls at a quinceanera instead of major executives at a company. That's what this sounds like. It really also reveals why exactly that Kathleen Kennedy lives on like a cockroach at Star Wars. There's Steven Spielberg over at the party, and all these people travel in the same circles. It is a faux pas to tell Kathleen Kennedy that she has failed and she must go on and away.
Yeah. Here it is, folks. Sorry, I just decided to freak out on me. With Iger gone, and this was, it was humiliating at the party. Chapek told his friends he felt relieved tension was out in the open. He was not thanked. Iger thanked a lot of people in the room, did not thank his successor, Bob Chapek, who was sitting in there, just deliberately insulting him. Kind of feel like we saw that with a certain Indiana Jones premiere not that long ago. We all remember that fateful night in November. Iger's heart remained at Disney, as they say here, and of course, he worked diligently to undermine and sabotage Bob Chapek, and by extension, Bob Iger sabotaging the Walt Disney Company itself from inside the C-suite, where he still remained, even with his executive advisory contract that lasts for 5 years after he left as executive chairman. But gentlemen, some kind of final thoughts on this as we wind it down here.
Well, according to this article, they say they want to have a CEO picked out by, a COO and CEO heir apparent picked out by early 2025. I got to say, I don't have a lot of faith that they're going to be able to do that. And if
Especially
they
not
do,
out in the open.
right. I think that this article clearly makes it more difficult for them to find somebody who is not just pliable to take the position. Hey, if you want somebody who is not qualified to run the Walt Disney Company, just get in touch with me. I'll gladly take your ridiculous signing bonus, and I'll gladly take your ridiculous severance package. And I am going to make it very difficult for you to do the job. I'm just going to say that right now. I'm going to be openly antagonistic to people who don't know how to make movies. Yes. I'm going to mention it every time you bring up the Muppets up there. For no reason, and also destroy the sanctity of the image. I will, if you want an unqualified CEO, please start with me. I'll give you 15% off whatever your rate is for a puppet. I'm just going to talk and tweet a lot more.
Who would want this job? Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.